This is some of my stock of op-amps that I use in projects and testing and everything else. Now, as you probably know, op-amps come in various shapes and sizes. Some of them are this sill line, often used in old audio equipment like mixers and things like that. This is not what I'm focusing on today. I'm more interested in the dual in-line versions like these. This is a JRC 4558. Here's an NE 5532. Here's an OPA 2134. Very good op-amp, this one. And so on and so forth. Now, I have some of them pretty well protected in anti-static bags. Most of them, or a lot of them, are lying around like that. Now, they've either been used in test projects or they've been removed from old equipment. And the reason I remove them is sometimes you need old op-amps. For example, there's an active amp in a Fender bass that really likes the 4558s from the old series because they're slower and apparently they clip better. But anyway, most of these op-amps are good. Some of them are probably not. The reason is I've either used them and touched them and haven't discharged myself properly in some cases, especially with the TL series. They're FET op-amps. They are pretty sensitive to static and I sometimes don't follow the rules. Some of them are just removed from old equipment, as I said, and the one thing I don't know for sure is whether they're working. Now that shouldn't be a problem if you put them in a socket, in a circuit. If it doesn't work, you swap it out. However, the problem is not that. The problem is when you build an op-amp circuit on a breadboard. This is a typical, just a test example. This is one quad op-amp. You can see it down there. It's a TL074 and it's set up as 4 inverting amplifiers. Now the mess is obvious. This is actually quite a neat board for me. Usually my breadboarding is a little bit wilder than this. And if this isn't working, usually trying to get this out to replace it is a pain in the butt because I sometimes have resistors flying over the top. If you connect one section to the other, you've got components flying over the top of the op-amp. When you try to remove it, some of these come off and it's a pain in the butt. So I decided I needed an op-amp tester. And the idea is that I would just take this op-amp, plug it in and find out whether at least the basic function is working and then use it on my projects. So I went looking for options for that and I found a lot of options on the net. Before we carry on, I want to thank the sponsors of the video, PCBWay. You'll find them at PCBWay.com. These are the guys I go to for all my PCBs. And lately I've been looking at some of the other services they have, which are quite amazing. If you look at their products and capabilities page, you will be surprised. And I'm sure you'll find something for your needs. The one thing that's piqued my interest though, when you go to the details page for placing your order, you'll see all the options they have here. From the size, to the number of layers, to the type of material, thickness, and so on and so forth. Admittedly, I've used mostly the standards, but the one thing that I really like is some of the colors they have. This matte black I've used before. It really looks good, and especially if you use a particular surface finish, like immersion gold and selective gold. I'm dying to try one of these because they really look cool. I've seen some other guys use them and they really do look great. So if you need any PCB work done, go to PCBWay.com. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. The easiest way to test an op-amp is just to test whether the basic function works. And one of the easiest ways is to run it as an op-amp vibrator circuit, where it's basically producing a square wave on the output, rail to rail, or as high as it'll go. And if that works, if you know that's working for each of the op-amps in the package, now you've got a fairly good chance that the whole thing is working. Now, we do get various types. We get for example, here's the TL072. This is a dual op-amp in one package. The one I've used here is the TL074. That's a quad op-amp in one package. And then there's also the 071, which is a single op-amp in one package. So generally, the op-amps of this caliber follow the same layout. They have the same pinout. Fortunately, not all of them, but most of them have the same pinout. And you can check the pinouts quite simply. Here's a typical pinout for a single op-amp, the 071 for example. You've got the inverting, non-inverting inputs, you've got the output, the positive supply, the negative supply, and the singles actually have offset null, which the nulls in this case I'm ignoring because you can leave them unconnected. I'm not worried about precise offset nulling, I'm worried about the basic function. But most of the op-amps you get in this configuration have the same pinout. This is the typical pinout for the 072, the dual op-amp. Again, you've got the positive supply, negative supply, and then you've got 3 pins for each op-amp in the package, the inverting, the non-inverting, and the output. And finally, here's the quad op amp. Again, supply, positive and negative, and 1 pin each for the inverting, non-inverting, and output of the 4 op amps in that package. Most of them do follow the spin-out configuration. Now that's a great advantage because it allows us to assume that we're building a test circuit for op amps that actually follow the same configuration, that have the same pinout. And there are a lot of ways of doing it. You can do a quad socket, for example, where you can plug in all the op amps in the same place and just switch around, but that's too complex. I want something really simple, something that I can just plug in an op amp and check that it's working. And the best way to do that is to have 3 sockets, one for a single, one for a dual, and one for a quad. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I want this thing to work in such a way that when I plug in the op amp, provided I get it in the right socket, I can immediately see if the op amp that's part of that package is working basically. So how do I go about that? Well, let me show you the schematic that quite a bit of investigation in the net finally resulted in. The first thing I wanted to do was create a split supply from a single supply, and that's very easily done. You bring in a battery or an external supply. I'll explain this wiring in a second. I'm going to use this with a push button so that I literally push the button, hold it while I test it and release, and the power goes away. So that gives us our B plus, and the bottom of the battery, or the negative of the external supply, is the V minus. I've got these two 10K resistors to divide the voltage in half, so that there should be, if that's 9 volts, that there should be 4.5. That little capacitor just makes sure that stays nice and smooth. And then I used one op amp. That's the only fixed op amp that goes on the board. That is used as a virtual ground creator. In other words, this voltage over here is the output. This is just wired up as a follower, as a buffer, so the inverting goes to the output. That means whatever appears here appears here. Because what's appearing here is 4.5 volts, the output is 4.5 volts referent to the negative supply. However, that is what becomes ground. So we've got positive supply, ground, minus supply, and the ground should be exactly halfway between the two. These little capacitors are decoupling on the supply lines very close to the op-amp pins itself. So that is our ground system, and from now on we'll only look at the positive, negative, and ground. The op-amp I'm using is a TL072. It's a dual op-amp, therefore you have to terminate the other op-amp in the package, and normally what I do is I connect the inverting to ground and the non-inverting to the output. That keeps it nice and safe, stops oscillations. That's the first section of our op-amp. Now we're going to build the vibrator circuit for each of the op-amp configurations, the single, the dual, and the quad. Now the op-amp vibrator circuit is nothing new, and in fact I'll link you to the tutorial, a very good tutorial that is given on electronictutorials.com. And this is where you can get all the information on how to select the component values to give you the right frequency and so on. But if we look at this, basically what it does is you connect your op-amp like this. There's a feedback resistor. These values are to get a particular value. As we'll see, they tried to get a 1 kilohertz square wave. I'm going for a much smaller frequency, but this is for 1 kilohertz. And the way they worked it out is you've got a feedback resistor from the output to the inverting pin, and you've got a capacitor here which connects to ground. Remember, now you've got plus supply, minus supply, and ground. This is now reference to ground, and depending on these two components, primarily, you get the frequency 1/2 RC. And then there's an explanation on this optimized ratio of these two resistors to give you quite an optimum duty cycle here of 50%. I'm not too worried about that, as you'll see. However, this is the basic circuit, and what I've done now is I've gone and used this output to drive an LED. In fact, 2 LEDs. So here we are. If you look at that tutorial, you'll find that there are some formulas to give you the resistor and capacitor combination value for the frequency. Now the frequency I want is probably about half a second, because I want this diode to blink, and this is a very special diode, as you will see. You can use 2 diodes back to back, but I've used a single diode, which makes it a lot easier. But let's go back here first. I've used these two components, the 1 meg and the 0.47, to give me the frequency that allows me to see the blink. I want to see the blink. I don't want this to blink so fast that I can't really see the color change, which is what I want on this particular LED. As I said, I'll explain in a second. This ratio I'm not too worried about. I don't particularly need a 50% duty cycle square wave. I need approximately that, and 100K each is fine. So what this circuit produces when I power it up, when I push the momentary push button to give it power, this starts oscillating and gives me my square wave. Now the square wave here is relative to ground. It goes as high as the op-amp will allow, as close to the positive supply as the op-amp will allow. Now some of them are rail to rail, a lot of them are not. And it goes as close to the negative rail as the op-amp will allow as well. Now usually the proximity to the negative rail is not quite the same as the positive rail. Doesn't matter. I just want a square wave here relative to ground. And then what I've done is I've got a dual polarity LED. This LED is not a normal LED. You can use two normal LEDs, in which case you would just do this. And if we look at it like this with normal LEDs, what happens? When this thing goes high, there's a high voltage there relative to ground. The current flows through the LED, through this current limiting resistor to ground, and this LED lights up. When this goes low, this voltage is negative relative to ground. Okay, it's closer to the negative supply. So current flows from the ground through the current limiting resistor to this LED and then to the op-amp. So these would blink alternatively, and that's why I want the frequency of the blinking to be fairly slow. It can be as slow as 1 second, you know, blink, blink, blink. This would really tell you that this op-amp is doing what it's supposed to do, that it's creating a square wave on the output. And to me, that's indication that this op-amp is working fine. Okay, there are a lot of other things you can test in the op-amp, but I want the basic function to tell me whether this op-amp is probably good or not. Now, the LED that I'm using is a dual polarity. It's still 2 pins, but if you connect it one way, it glows red, and if you connect the other way, it glows green. So I can do away with this LED, and it makes my circuit a lot simpler. This is what I have as my test circuit for each package inside the op-amp. I've built up this test circuit here on the breadboard just to give you an indication of how this thing works. Now if I power it on, I've just got it connected to the power supply, and you can see the LED there blinking. I'll put the lights off just to make it easier to see. Now the capacitor that I've got here at the moment is 1 microfarad, just to make the blinking or the alternating color slower and it's easier to see. We've got the red, green, so this indicates that op-amp should be good. And I'm happy with the result. I can change the 390 ohm to make it brighter or less bright. I'll see how it goes depending on which supply I use. 4.5 volts and minus 4.5 volts might be just a little bit too low to make it bright enough, but that's easy to change. All right, back to the explanation. And this is what it sort of looks like when you start putting them all together, because I need all these to be able to create the circuit board, the PCB. So this is my dual. This is one half of the dual op-amp. You see it uses pin 1, 2, and 3. And this is the other half of the dual op-amp. It uses 7, 6, and 5. So I've got a blinking light LED for the first op-amp, a blinking LED for the second op-amp. I've also got a single op-amp socket that I'm going to put in there. And this just wires slightly different because the pins are different, but it's the same function, exactly the same components. And then I've got 4 equal or 4 similar circuits for the 4 op-amps in the quad. Now, this might seem like quite a waste, but believe me, 1, 2, 3, 4 resistors, 1 capacitor, and 1 LED is no big deal. It certainly makes it a lot simpler than trying to switch the power, the input, the output to different parts of the socket to accommodate the single, the dual, and the quad. I prefer it this way. I've seen this done before, and it works very well. And the circuit, or rather the layout that comes out, is actually quite simple as well. This is what our PCB looks like. This is the top side of the PCB, and you'll probably notice that a lot of components are on the underside. And the reason for this is I wanted this to be used without an actual enclosure. So this side of the board will be the top of the device. And I've got 3 sockets, this one, and this one. The single, the dual, and the quad. And then I've got my LEDs over here. The idea is that I'll put this op-amp in. If it's a single, I will push the push button over here. It's being supplied by battery or by an external supply. By pushing that push button, I will power the circuit, in other words, power this op-amp, and it'll blink. If it works, it'll blink this LED. This is the LED that is related to the single op-amp. And this one will blink at a frequency of about 2 Hertz, red and green, red and green, red and green. Now, if it's dual color blink, in other words, if it blinks red and green, I know that it's fine. or probably fine. If it goes one color only, I know that it's latched to the one supply. If it goes the other color, I know that it's latched to the negative supply, for example. So I know that's bad. If it doesn't blink at all, I know that's bad. Now this thing, having one op-amp, I've got one LED, number one. This one here is identical. If I put the op-amp in here, this is the circuit that will power up. And then I've got two LEDs. This is for the first op-amp in the package, and this one here is the second op-amp in the package. And exactly the same happens for the quad. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the sort of numbering that you have on the op-amps. This first one is 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. So when I put my quad op-amp in there and I power it, all four of them should be blinking alternating colors to tell me that the 4 op-amps in that package are fine. Why have I done it a little bit bigger than usual? The PCBWay simple package is a 10 by 10, maximum 10 by 10 board, and this one comes to about 97 millimeters instead of 100, so it's within the limit, and it's less than 50 centimeters. So what I did is I made the board bigger by twice. In other words, twice the board size in terms of width. There are little holes perforated on here. The idea is that this thing gets produced, you break it there, you've got holes there, 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 and there, there, and there. You put this facing up, this thing goes below the board on the back side of the board with separated with spaces, and that way you protect the bottom of the components and you shift it off the ground, and you've got yourself a container, as it were. It's easier to see in 3D. So if you look at the top, this is what you'll see. You'll see your sockets, 3 sockets, and you'll see your LED number 1 for that one. You'll see these 2 LEDs for that one and these 4 LEDs for that one. That's what will be sticking out the top, and then at the back is where your components are. This is the supply op-amp, the filter, the resistors that give it the half rail. You'll connect battery there, or you plug in your external supply here. The way the circuit is drawn, if you've got battery and you plug in the external supply, the particular jack that I've used breaks the negative connection to the battery, so you can actually use external supply with the battery involved. I probably will never use a battery, but I wanted to make that function available. So this part of the board is where most of the components go, and this part, which you've broken off, will cover this section. There'll be spaces between this board and that board, and then this will serve as the base of the package. So that's basically all it is. And that is my op-amp tester, which I have ordered the boards for, which should be arriving quite soon. And hopefully I'll be able to show you a working version very, very soon. So I do hope that this proved interesting to you. And if you want to build this, give it another week or so until I receive the boards and build it and check it. And then I'll be sharing these boards on PCBWay's website in the share section, and you can order them directly from them. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon, PayPal, links on the description below. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now, and stay safe.